Let's go back to Russell Brand. The entertainment industry has serious questions to answer. The BBC and Channel 4, which of course employed him back in the early noughties, have launched major investigations into what was going on during those days. He denies all allegations. But yesterday and over the weekend on Dispatches on Channel 4 and in the Times and the Sunday Times, they all jointly investigated what Brown was allegedly up to in those days. And as a result, BBC and Channel 4 are seriously investigating themselves. The police look set to jump in fairly soon. They've already spoken to the Times, Sunday Times and Dispatches. They want to speak to the 4 women who say he sexually assaulted and raped them, which he denies, as I say. And there are suggestions that his lewd behaviour, his promiscuous behaviour, he's not denying he was promiscuous. He was having a lot of sex during those days, at one point allegedly using a BBC car to pick up his then 16-year-old girlfriend from school. So a lot of questions to be asked, and how responsible for all of this, for this kind of behaviour, was the television industry itself. Let's talk to Media Professor and Consultant Aaqil Ahmed. Good morning, Aaqil.
Morning.
What's your take on this? I mean, I was covering the TV scene back in those days. Used to write a lot about Big Brother. It was very lucrative in terms of material to write about. But I keep making the point, if people like Brand, you know, the big luminaries of reality TV back in its dawning age in the early noughties, you know, think about what that programme was. I keep saying that, you know, this was the format. It was take working class kids who are not, shall we say, towering intellectuals, feed them with a load of drink, laugh at them when they misbehave, and hopefully they'll have sex along the way. Now, if that's your format, it seems to me hardly surprising that the people who presented those shows might have been not immaculately behaved.
Oh, well, I was actually at Channel 4 at the time, Kevin, at that period you're talking about.
Oh, it's your fault, is it?
Yeah, it's all my fault. No. I was at Channel 4 in another completely different world to Big Brother. I have to say, in the early days, it probably wasn't as bad as what I think it became that over the few...
You're right. It started 2020, right at the outset, 2000. Yeah. Within about 3 or 4 years, it became a very rancid programme. By series 5, they had to call the police in because all the contestants had a massive fight. I
remember going into work the next day, and it was a tape. It was a tape that we were all watching. I was actually there when Channel 4 decided to pull the plug on Big Brother because it was seen as being toxic to the brand of Channel 4. And I think I think you've summed it up perfectly in a sense. It was a period in time, wasn't it?
Yes.
And actually, you know, it's actually probably, you know, there are other questions we can talk about with regards to the television industry about whether or not, you know, with so many people on freelance contracts and there not being a lot of work right now, would people be able to whistleblow, and would they put up with some of this behaviour now? Simply not because the rules are any less. The rules are a lot stricter now on the kind of behaviour what he's alleged to have got up to. But with regards to people's security, job security, they may feel a bit more worried. I think going back in time, when you think about the cash cow that things like Big Brother were, and obviously he was on the offshoot of Big Brother, I think Big Brother E4 Forum or Little Big Brother's Little Brother, all those kind of things. These were huge cash cows. I mean, they paid for the programmes I made. Let's be honest with you. The kind of programmes that I made, they didn't do too bad, but advertisers weren't falling over themselves to advertise to an older demographic. So we needed Big Brother and all those programmes. So you can understand the kind of like, not to serious allegations that we've come across, but to some of the kind of, I don't know, oh, that's Russell kind of behaviour.
Yes.
You can probably understand why people may have put up with it. I'm not saying they did, but you can understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. He very much a creature of those different times. But that doesn't mean to say that with the benefit of hindsight, we don't have to have a look at those times.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about. You worked in the television industry. I've had a lot to do with it. I've worked in it. I've covered it. And I know what this is about. In those days, possibly to an extent still today, the stars of the show, the hosts, are what they call the talent. It's not that, you know, the talent. You go to the BBC and you're talking to a microphone, you're the talent. They were over-venerated, they were venerated, and they were allowed to get away with just about anything they wanted to do, and the executives just turned a blind eye, you know, because they thought they were getting good telly out of this. There was something going on in that respect, wasn't there?
No, I think you're right. There's a culture thing, isn't there? You know, where people will put up with things if they think that actually it's going to get them a result. And I think, you know, I think in the documentary, if you watch it, I think it's a very good program, by the way. I think some of us have forgotten all about how you do proper journalism, and the newspapers and the TV have done some proper journalism there.
They sure have, I agree. Great investigation.
Rather than trial by social media. Yeah. Rather than trial by social media. And of course, it's all allegations, so I'll just say that. But it was a good program. And in it, Lorraine Heggessy, one of my old bosses at BBC One, she summed it up perfectly, which was, you know, this wasn't a one-off. This happened on more than one occasion, and he seemed to be promoted up. And at what point do you turn around and say, enough is enough? I would probably argue that it did happen, because he went off to Hollywood, didn't he? And it's not as if, and I don't know what happened in his life or in his career, but he didn't have his own TV shows. He's not knocking out those, you know, films that he was knocking out at that point. So at some point, you would imagine a lot of people did eventually say, they got beyond that, oh, that's Russell, and went, actually, do you know what? I'm not sure I want to be associated with this. And I think the atmosphere has changed. I think, you know, that kind of behaviour is a lot harder to pull off.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
I totally think it, but I think there is a cultural problem, full stop, when somebody delivers, that it becomes hard to knock them off their perch if they've done something wrong. And I know from my own experience, not in any way in the same, you know, severity as this, but I remember once bringing something to the attention of somebody about, I thought the behaviour was unacceptable, one of our talent, and just being told to man up, quite frankly.
Well, a friend of mine...
because that person was more important to me, you know?
A young friend of mine at the BBC who went to HR to complain about a very senior figure there harassing him sexually, was told, well, you could proceed with this complaint if you like, but as to the effects that might have on your career prospect, that's something for you to reflect upon. That's what the system was. Don't complain about the stars, because you'll end up in more trouble than them. A lot of questions to be asked. We wait to see if the police are going to turn this into an official investigation. I think they'll probably have to. But I think this is after Savile, after Schofield, after Edwards. I think this is just one other episode in recent television history, that the TV industry is basically going to have to sort of exercise from its dark and tortured soul. It needs to go into this. So much still to come on this. Good to talk to you, Aaqil. Thank you very much for your time. Aaqil Ahmed, their media professor, consultant. Used to work on Channel 4. So,
amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then.